It's 2026, everyone. Isn't that kind of freaky? I'm here to talk about books that I read in 2025. The good, the bad, and the ugly. It was a year. My reading was different than previous years. I read less than previous years, probably about half than I had before. And honestly, I'm kind of glad for it. I feel like 2025 was the year of kind of learning a bit more about my reading tastes, because I dipped my toes in new waters. I tried some books that I had previously either never heard of or didn't think would really appeal to me or I found intimidating, and I learned a lot from that. Did have a slump somewhere in there, but we live and we learn, and I survived. It was okay. I'm gonna start with my favorite authors of the year, and this was difficult because I basically decided favorite authors based on having read multiple of their books. Like, I really loved Elizabeth Gaskell, but I only read one of her books, so whatever. So the first one is John Steinbeck. I actually read 3 of his books, but I'm missing one. I read 3 Steinbecks in 2025. Started the year with Travels with Charlie. It's kind of autobiographical road trip across America with his dog in the 60s. You see 1960s America and all that entails, and it was probably a bit embellished, but I really liked it. And then I moved on to Of Mice and Men. I think I read this in one day because it's pretty short, and that was Of Mice and Men. It was good. I mean, I don't know what else you can say about it. And then I spent the summer with The Grapes of Wrath, and it was really good. I actually, in the middle of reading this, I live in Oklahoma, so we have a bit of history with this book. So in the middle of reading this, we actually went down south to this farmer guy, and he has a whole room dedicated to the Dust Bowl, and there's things about this book and what it got wrong, what it got right, and we kind of had a bit of an argument, but that's okay. So overall, John Steinbeck, probably #1 author of 2025. Just really love his writing. It's simplistic, but there's just something about it, and I just really enjoyed it. So I hope to get a couple more of his books this year. We'll see. Another favorite author of 2025 is A.K. Caggiano. She does quirky fantasy romance, I suppose. She kind of feels like a breath of fresh air in between other books that I'm reading, especially whenever I'm reading classics or something darker. And if I pick up something like this, I'm telling you guys, the writing is unbelievably quirky, maybe skews a bit millennial humor, so you've been forewarned. But cringe does not scare me, and these are really fun. You know, I'm gonna make an exception to the rule. I said I was gonna choose favorite authors if I had read multiple of their books in the year. Who cares? So, Emma by Jane Austen. Jane Austen she was my introduction to classics, so she'll always have a special place in my heart. This 2025 was her 250th birthday. I hear she still looks really good. Jane Austen, as always. And then, I don't want to grab it. It's under a very tall pile. But Elizabeth Gaskell, I read North and South in the fall. It was so good. Just really good. But we'll talk about that more later. Up next is the disappointments of 2025. These are ones that I've had on my shelves for a while, and I finally got to them, and they kind of let me down. First one that disappointed me is White Nights by Dostoevsky, which is actually fun because I'm currently reading Crime and Punishment and I'm loving every second of it. But White Nights, not so much. I guess it's just one of those ones that has a lot of attention on the internet and people are like, oh my gosh, and they're constantly quoting it and stuff. So I read it and there are some moments I appreciated. I like the emphasis on how important connection is and community and any form of love, but I just didn't feel it. The next day after reading White Nights, I picked up First Love by Turgenev, and this one I liked a little bit more. I just feel like it had more to it, maybe a bit more of a plot, tiny bit of a mystery thrown in, not really. I saw that from a mile away of who it was, but I did like it. I thought it was cute, but also kind of disturbing in some ways. I don't know. It was okay. I wanted it to be more than okay, but we don't all get what we want. The last disappointment, this one, I've had it on my shelves for a really long time. I think if I had read it right when I bought it, I would have liked it more. But since I bought it, I've read so many books, new genres, I've learned things that I like in books and stuff. Maybe matured a little bit. That one's, you decide. But it was Blade of Secrets by Trisha Levenseller. I don't want to say it's not good. I just don't think I'm the right audience. I think it is, I'm pretty sure it's a YA fantasy. I liked the idea, that's why I read it, and I started reading the second book and then I didn't finish that. I liked the idea behind it. I think it was very fun. I don't know if it's because the characters are so young or if it was just the writing itself. It just felt so immature. But I don't know, okay? I don't want to get too far into it because at the end of the day, I don't think I'm the right audience for it. So how much of a right do I have to be too disappointed in it? Next up are my DNFs. Sometimes I DNF a book because it's not the right time, and I know I want to come back to it in the future, just not in the right headspace or multiple reasons. These, on the other hand, I'm pretty sure I don't want to revisit any of them. Maybe this one, Mansfield Park, Jane Austen. As a Jane Austen lover, this one hurt. I annotated it. Okay, I read one chapter and then I quit because I was in a Jane Austen book club for 2025 and I didn't finish it by the time the meeting came around. So then when the meeting came, no one had anything good to say about it. Like, they found a couple things that they liked here and there, but overall they were like, you don't have to read it. And honestly, I concur. I also tried to read more audiobooks. Some of them were hits. Some of them I loved. There were a couple, not so much. The first one was Cold Kitchen. I don't remember the author. I'll put it on screen. It is a culinary memoir. Honestly, I don't even remember it because I kept putting it on and immediately getting distracted and just being like, oh, I'm listening. No, I'm not. I don't remember anything. So eventually I got maybe 20-30% in and I realized I didn't know anything that happened and I didn't care. So I just returned it to the library and I called it quits. The other failed audiobook is The Monster's Bones. This one, I really thought it was gonna work for me because one of my favorite books of the year was Dinosaurs at the Dinner Party, which was an audiobook that I listened to. I actually ended up buying a physical copy of it, and I loved that audiobook because who doesn't love dinosaurs? Dinosaurs at the Dinner Party is Victorians. The Monster's Bones is kind of like Edwardians, but set in America, the Gilded Age? I don't know, that time period. So I thought it would be up my alley. It wasn't. I didn't care. The other DNF, social media can sometimes be an evil, evil place. And I've I've got to put a leash on myself, you know? And I think that's where I saw this book and everyone talking about it. And in theory, it should have worked for me, but in practice, no. The book is Dr. Darko. It is a Pride and Prejudice retelling, which, hey, love those. Those are so fun. And it's also kind of gothic with some, I think, necromancy magic stuff. So, like that one, put them together, maybe not. But I think it was actually the writing. First of all, the book, I didn't finish it. I did get pretty far though. The book was incredibly long, if I remember correctly. And then the writing, the amount of times that the author wrote about how small Elizabeth's feet were. First of all, hey, what? And then how large Mr. Darcy's, I think it was his shoulders or something. Something about him was large, and it was just so repetitive. It was always like, and her small, tiny, microscopic feet scurried across the floor behind his large frame. What? I don't know. It was weird. I don't know. Ooh, okay. We're switching it up. Okay? We will stop talking bad. We're getting to the good stuff. So we're gonna do my top 5 of 2025. So number 5 is Emma by Jane Austen. I read this at the beginning of the year. I annotated it. I don't know if you can see that. I had this, first of all, I love this book. It's a Bantam Classic book. I think they're all small like this. Yeah, I love it. They can fit in my hand, and I have small hands. Wait, not like the Dr. Darko book. This is an observation. This is a fact. It can fit in my hand, and I could just carry it with me everywhere while I was reading it. So that was great. I always had it in my purse. But Emma, Jane Austen, love this book. It's almost tied with Pride and Prejudice for favorite Austen, which is crazy. I've seen some people get very irritated and annoyed and just blatantly hate Emma, the main character, Emma Woodhouse, handsome, clever, and rich. True. But I don't know, I feel like it's all about character development, and she gets humbled, and I mean, at the end of the day, the class structure stays the same, and there are things that aren't going to be changed because of their society, yeah. But I love Emma. You can't take her away from me. I really like her. So this was just a really, really fun book. I was glad to have it as my companion for the time that it took me to read it. I really, really liked it. And it was very funny, of course. Austen is hilarious. Number 4 is Dinosaurs at the Dinner Party. What's the full thing? How an eccentric group of Victorians discovered prehistoric creatures and accidentally upended the world, by Edward Dolnick. I initially listened to it as an audiobook from the library, and then after I finished it and rated it very, very highly, I decided I needed to own a physical copy, especially because there are a lot of pictures and figures and like, so fun. Yeah, look, it's a cyclops. What is happening? So yeah, basically it follows multiple Victorians throughout the Victorian era, maybe even the Georgian. I feel like whenever I read a Victorian book, they always have to go back a little bit further, like the long 18th century kind of thing. But it follows multiple people that were involved in the discovery of dinosaurs, what they thought was going on, how society perceived it with religion, and I think a bit of romanticism, and I just really liked it. And you can see how throughout the book the years go by, how the dinosaurs evolve and they learn more about them. This was just really fun. I really liked it. I learned about new people that I don't think I ever would have heard of before. It was really good. Just loved it. Number 3 is Dracula by Bram Stoker. I read Frankenstein. It was great. Loved it. And then I think a couple weeks after reading Frankenstein, I was getting my hair cut and I was thinking like, is there anything in town that I need to do before I go back home while I'm already over here? There was a Barnes & Noble down the street and it popped into my head, I should read Dracula. So I got on the Barnes & Noble app while I was sitting in the haircut chair and I saw that they had this edition and I was very intrigued by it because I think it's really cool. And I picked it up and immediately started reading it and loved it. It takes place over several months. You get different people's journals. I think it was so fun. And honestly, slight spoiler for the next 10 seconds, the fact that Dracula was crawling on the sides of the castle like a freaking lizard. I'm sorry, that is so funny. And then also there were certain deaths that happened. Didn't see those. I didn't think that Stoker was actually gonna pull through with those, and I'm kind of glad he did. I really liked it. I've seen mixed reviews on Dracula. I feel like most people, it kind of gets lumped in with Frankenstein and those kind of like older classic monster books. But I kind of thought this was more fun than Frankenstein. Frankenstein felt more internal, kind of more atmospheric, I suppose. This, I had a lot of fun reading. It was so fun. And all of the characters were very interesting. So, Dracula, Bram Stoker, loved it. So good. Number 2 for top 5 books of 2025 is The Matchmaker's Lonely Heart by Nancy Campbell Allen. It is a Victorian kind of murder mystery romance. Yeah, it was great. The climax, I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, oh my god, is the author gonna do that? No, but like, my palms were sweaty, you know? Yeah, The Matchmaker's Lonely Heart. The main lady is a matchmaker. This fella is a detective, and someone dies, and they get all mixed up in there, and she's kind of stupid sometimes, but God bless her, I love her. So, I just really had a good time, and I want more books like this. You know how hard it is to find something like this? Historical, preferably Victorian, or Regency, or Georgian, I'll take anything. Murder mystery with a subplot of romance. Those are hard to find, so let me know if you have any. And coming in at number 1, North and South, Elizabeth Gaskell. You know, I think this is a universal thing, I find it harder to talk about books that I love. It's easy to find flaws and talk about them and deconstruct them and go into them, but to talk about books that you love, I always feel speechless. It's so hard to put into words, but I love this book. It's really way up there in all-time favorite reads. I did end up annotating, got all my colorful tabs and highlights and underlining and stuff. I did watch the BBC miniseries before, several months before, so I kind of had an idea what was going to happen, and then I had all of those actors' faces for these characters. First of all, BBC miniseries, North and South, really good. Give it a go. It's awesome. And then read this, or read this first. Do what you must, but do check them out. A lot of people call it the Victorian Industrial Revolution Pride and Prejudice. I can see how that makes out. I get it. But it stands on its own without the comparison. It makes you feel every emotion. It is genuinely a very, very sad book. There's a lot of death. There's a lot of talk on the effects of industry on different classes, especially the poor classes, owners versus workers, riots, sickness. And the main girl, Margaret, she has a lot of growing up to do, a lot of prejudices that need to be shed, and the love interest, he's very, very interesting. But lots of interesting topics, interesting conversations that the characters have, being from kind of different ranks, but seeing themselves as lesser or higher than others, and it was so good. North and South, Elizabeth Gaskell, that is my #1 book of 2025. I think about it a lot. Okay, let's pull out the iPad for this. We're gonna go over some stats really quick. Only a couple, because I don't want to encourage the whole numbers game that sometimes I see with the book community, I guess. It just leads to a lot of comparing and a lot of negativity, and we don't need that here. So I'm not gonna say numbers, because who gives a darn, but we'll go over overall stats. Okay, the longest streak for reading is 30 days, according to this tracker, which is the most accurate. And then I have a thing in the back. Where is that? 1, 2, 3. I had 3 5-stars. I'm very, very picky about those, if we're being honest. I don't know what it takes to have a 5-star. I cannot put that into words or explain it. I just had 3 5-stars in the year of 2025. Oh, I don't want to do math. I'll do math. Okay, fine. Okay, for my monthly rating, my worst month was October. The average rating was 2.9 stars. And my best month was September, with the average rating at 4.3. And then overall, for all months of the year, my average rating is 3.5. I kind of thought it'd be a little bit higher than that, but whatever. We will take it. I read 95% fiction, 5% nonfiction, which is, it's more than previous years. Previous years I maybe read 1 nonfiction. I am trying. 50% of the books I read were 300 to 499 pages, and then after that was less than 300, and then I only read a few 500 plus page books, which I want to amend that in the new year. And then lastly, 72% of the books I read were digital, either through the library or Kindle. And then 25% of the books I read were print, mostly ones that I own. I think there were a couple that I borrowed. And then 3% audio. So, yeah. Hopefully everyone had a good 2025 reading or outside of reading. And I wish you all well for the new year, for 2026. Yeah. All I want is a stress-free, peaceful, but nice and happy year.